This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices edged higher in early trade on Tuesday after sinking in the previous session on weaker than expected Chinese economic growth, as investors eyed a possible tightening of U.S. crude supplies. Brent crude gained 11 cents to $78.61 a barrel by 0017 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose 15 cents to $74.30 a barrel. Both contracts fell more than 1.5% on Monday. Investors awaited industry data later on Tuesday that was expected to show U.S. crude oil stockpiles and product inventories likely fell last week.
China's diesel exports fell to the lowest level in more than a year in June as refiners curbed production in favor of more lucrative gasoline and aviation fuels. Diesel exports amounted to 290,000 metric tons last month, down from 600,000 metric tons in May and below even the weak base a year earlier at 330,000 metric tons, data from China's General Administration of Customs showed. That represents the lowest monthly level since May 2022, and is only a fraction of the recent peak of nearly 2.8 million metric tons last December.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
U.S. shale oil and natural gas production will fall in August for the first time since December, the U.S. Energy Information Administration, EIA, said in its monthly drilling productivity report on Monday. Crude output from the 7 big U.S. shale basins is set to ease to 9.40 million barrels per day, BPD, in August from a record 9.42 million barrels of oil per day in July, EIA projected. In the biggest shale oil basin, Permian in West Texas and eastern New Mexico, output is set to fall to 5.76 million barrels of oil per day next month, the lowest level since April, the agency said.
Indian imports of Russian crude are likely to decline on narrowing discounts and payment problems, forcing refiners to boost supplies from other sources, a senior government official told reporters on Monday. Russia has emerged as the biggest oil supplier to India after Western nations shunned purchases from Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine in February last year. Indian refiners have been gorging on Russian oil on the basis of deep discounts to benchmark Brent prices. But discounts on Russia's flagship Urals grade have tumbled to $3 to $3.05 a barrel for August loading and September delivery, while the availability of Russian oil in spot markets has declined, a source at one Indian refiner said. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Copper prices in London rebounded on Tuesday as a weak dollar kept greenback-priced metals cheaper to holders of other currencies, but weak data from China dented sentiment. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange rose 0.2% to $8,507.50 per metric ton by 0425 GMT, having lost 2.1% in the previous session, its biggest decline in more than 3 weeks. The dollar index wobbled near its one-year low, as investors awaited fresh catalysts to gauge if the currency has further downside risk amid cooler-than-expected U.S. inflation.
Gold prices edged up on Tuesday on a dollar that was close to hitting its lowest in over a year, while traders waited for retail sales data from the United States to gauge any impact on the U.S. Federal Reserve's monetary tightening path. Spot gold rose 0.3% to $1,959.54 per ounce by 0359 GMT. U.S. gold futures gained 0.4% to $1,963.70. The dollar wobbled near an over one-year low. A weaker dollar makes gold cheaper for holders of other currencies.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
A deal allowing the safe Black Sea export of Ukraine's grain for the past year expired on Monday after Russia quit and warned it could not guarantee the safety of ships in a move the United Nations said would strike a blow to people in need everywhere. Moscow suggested that if demands to improve exports of its own grain and fertilizer were met, it would consider resurrecting the Black Sea Agreement. However, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said that a UN pact that aimed to help facilitate Russia's shipments over the past year was also terminated. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.